You know how Nike's motto is just do it? Well, Bob Chesney's motto is he just gets it. He just gets it. He is a good press machine, and there's no doubt in my mind the UCLA football program will be successful much sooner than we expect.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Welcome back, everydayers. Thanks for making this podcast network the number one sports podcast network out there. What we're talking about today, finally diving into the UCLA baseball loss to San Diego State prior to their trip over to Texas. Second segment, we're going to talk about the crazy jumbled up Big Ten standings. What's it going to take for UCLA to go up, stay put, or fall down? And leading things off, Bob Chesney gets it. He just does. This episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Have your cake and drink it too. Birthday cake flavor is back. No fork needed. Vanilla-y, cakey flavor, caffeinated kick, and no sugar. It's party time. Order now at 5hourenergy.com or on Amazon. You know who doesn't need to bring the energy? It's Bob Chesney, because he just gets it. That's the third time I've said that in the opening minute. So what do I mean by that? Chesney, on the day we record this podcast, continues to have the UCLA football content machine pump out good stuff. He, on his own accounts, pumps out and highlights his partnership, quote-unquote, relationship with Bill Simmons as what Chesney would, quote, say. This is what Chesney has to say on his own Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. He's blessed to break bread with these Hollywood heavy hitters, and their commitment to make an impact on UCLA football will help get our team back on top. Grateful for their partnership and what they're building in Westwood. The future is bright, all caps. And as much emphasis as I can tell to you watching at home, you listening at home, however you're viewing this, the future is bright in Westwood. After what's been some bad press, significantly terrible press for UCLA, the athletic department as a whole, which continues to keep on going, right? It's a saga that still just won't end with the Rose Bowl. You still got to figure out what happened to Bruins for life. That just kind of vanished. The embarrassment that was last year's football season, the chaos that, yes, I had to cover and be a part of, but also, yes, it was embarrassing with how UCLA played last year in the majority of the season. How they just kind of keep getting in their own way. You had The Athletic putting out an article of how UCLA has been really getting in their own way without support for years. And then you've got Bob Chesney, who is the first, in terms of the big sports, seemingly big-time hire UCLA's gotten right in a while, right? That they honed in on a guy and they got him. When basketball on the men's side was open, when they got rid of Alford, you went after Cronin, who after they went after a list of guys, Cronin was near the middle of the list, okay? And while Cronin has seen good to mixed results, the jury's still out because UCLA's not going to fire him with his major buyout. He's got to a Final Four, but we're still going to figure out what Cronin does, all right? With all the calls to fire him now, what, year 6, year 7? Chesney comes in. UCLA went all out for Chip Kelly, which at the time could have been figured out as like, oh, that's a big trying to commit move. But the way Chip Kelly went about business probably ticked off a lot of people inside the UCLA campus, athletic department, everything, even prior to Julio Frank, even prior to Martin, all right? So then when they had a chance to write it, UCLA was a little behind the game. When I was like, you know what, let's try to keep this guy, and they didn't. And then they finally went to Deshaun Foster, the inexperienced head coach, who proved in what it was in a year plus that he didn't have what it took and was not given the time to try and right the ship in a football program that was sinking very quickly. And now you've got Bob Chesney, who goes out with viral videos of how you got to know the staff, what the difference is when he's talking to people in class. I don't really know what exactly was posted on the UCLA football Twitter, the X, the social media everywhere, but he's talking to class over at UCLA. I don't know specifically what it is, so if you're commenting, you could probably enlighten me a little more, but he's talking about the difference between going the extra mile as a young coach. It's just a person in life trying to be successful, whether you're willing to compete or you want to complain. Which is funny because you probably, if you're watching at home, will think, yeah, I'm a yapper who complains a lot. And yeah, well, it's a little different in the yapping business. We get to yap and talk and put a lot of words, good or bad, in between. And then you look at Chesney and he lays out what it takes to be successful. You could take Chesney's advice and apply it to your life and just be successful. And it's not just because he's a UCLA coach. You go see any videos prior when he's building. You can see why this dude is successful. And you're like, man, this dude's seemingly best buds with Bill Simmons, all right, of some sorts. I'm not really sure how tight they are, but man, Bill Simmons all in on Bob Chesney as the UCLA coach. You see Chesney going out giving great career advice, life advice to just anybody who's willing to listen. Hopefully, if the UCLA players are awake in the football program, they take that, and not only will they be successful in the program, X's and O's, wins and losses, they're going to be successful in life. And now there's probably a lot of you watching, listening at home who's like, I don't give a flying rat's crap. I don't care anything if they don't win a damn game. And that's fair. UCLA's been the embarrassment. But for a while, when everything's been so topsy-turvy, it's embarrassing. You're seeing banners to fire your coach, and then years later, it's, oh, let's fire the AD. Everything's going wrong. There's no attendance. This is the dude to root for, and that's why the motto is, he gets it. Just gets it. All right? Kind of pivoting off of what Nike had, would just do it. Kind of what Chesney was telling his people. If you want to go the extra mile and say, that's not my job description, it seems like that's what he gets. From the equipment shed to understanding and treasuring and valuing everybody a part of the staff, whether they're playing or not playing, top coaches or not coaches. And now you got to walk the talk. You got to back it up. But Chesney clearly has from every level of football, and that's what's brought him to this, the biggest stage he's been on. A program that, despite its willingness to give him a platform and an opportunity to write it, will get in his own way. And I think the way that Chesney runs his programs, seeing how successful he's been, just seeing even videos and opportunities and how things have been run at his previous stops, there is no doubt in my mind he gets it and he will be successful. And again, this doesn't mean he will be 10-2. He will be Curt Cignetti. It is a very different persona. It is a very different way about business. And Indiana seemed like I'm not sure if they're a sleeping giant, but man, they got resources and they got a fan base that has been waiting for something successful over there for years. And it wasn't men's basketball in recent times. And now that football's gotten good, they went all in. UCLA's in limbo land. They want to be good in everything. And you could see the hype he's getting from UCLA alumni, whether they're on everything is good. Everything. So I just believe UCLA sooner rather than later will be good. And they're so rootable. Like, this is a guy you want to win. Not that I didn't want Deshaun to win. I really wanted Deshaun to figure it out. But this seems that with some competent coaching, some experience, and the proven track record, UCLA will get off the ground running in the buildup, in the strength training, in the spring ball, heading into the summer camp fall ball, and UCLA week 1 when they take on Cal in a battle of two teams with two year 1 coaches. You'll see which program is looking ready off the bat. Is it the team with the coordinator who's getting things cooking with some young talent in Berkeley? Or will it be the UCLA coach who's been there, done that, and going to get us excited at the Rose Bowl for week 2 when they take on San Diego State? I'll put my money into Chesney's camp. Whether it's the life advice, the career advice, just the daily grind of fighting through things, or for my case, as I also am a young coach of sorts, not to his level, to his stature of his sport, but it's like, man, that makes a lot of sense. And I would say, man, go watch his content. It makes a lot of sense. And the relationships, the success, everything, they're intertwined. And you'll see why UCLA will be good soon. Next, we're talking UCLA men's basketball. It's a log jam in the middle of the Big Ten standings. The Bruins can jump up, they can jump down. Let's talk about the likely scenarios and where UCLA at its highest could actually look on the Locked On UCLA podcast.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. South Carolina rolled past Ole Miss 85-48 to clinch a share of the SEC regular season title and lock down the number 1 seed in the conference tournament. The Gamecocks extended their win streak over Ole Miss to 21 straight. UCLA dominated Wisconsin 80-60 to secure its first outright Big Ten regular season championship in program history. The Bruins improved to 27-1 overall and remain unbeaten in conference play. And number 12 TCU stormed back from a 13-point fourth quarter deficit to beat Iowa State 80-73. The Horned Frogs now sit alone atop the Big 12 standings and are 1 win away from clinching another regular season conference crown. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Have you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? Well, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. And if you're already looking at the board at who might win, well, try and see if you're picking cash, but also it could send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Cruising on here with Locked On UCLA. Zach talking with you guys. We're diving in to what is a jumbled mess in the midst of the Big Ten standings. UCLA is seemingly away from the bottom of the conference, not just there in the top of the men's side, but here they are with a chance, an outside chance, just like a year ago, to sneak into the 4 seed, which gives them a double, triple bye. Last year a double bye, this year seemingly a triple bye in the Big Ten tournament because they're inviting all 18 teams on the men's side. So what does it look right now here for UCLA? Last year, UCLA needed some help. They needed things to go their way. And when it seemed like they blew their opportunity, UCLA still finished in the top 4. So as much as it might seem like it's not likely, after seeing the same case a year ago where UCLA lost a late game, Minnesota comes to mind, just like it does where the Bruins are heading this weekend to Minneapolis. UCLA needs some help. And they got it. Somehow they got it a year ago, and the Big Ten tiebreakers fell correctly into their lap. So UCLA is currently tied for 6th, which puts them in the 7th spot because they lost head-to-head to Wisconsin. Wisconsin has beaten almost every big-name team to think of, right? If you're thinking about, all right, top of the Big Ten, whether it's Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois, Wisconsin's basically beaten them. And with the latest result, Michigan State going to Purdue and winning, Purdue has dropped a level below. So Purdue is just outside that top 4. Purdue and Wisconsin have one more matchup against one another. So if Purdue beats Wisconsin, Wisconsin falls behind UCLA in the standings, where UCLA, if they can win out, a road game Minnesota, a home game against Nebraska, and a road game at USC, one of those is tougher than the other. 2 of those are tough. 3 of those are tough, but all 3 are winnable with the way UCLA has played in their best of moments. But if you look at a team the way they've played on the road, it's really doubtful that they can go 3-0. So UCLA would need 3 separate teams to lose. And this is what I've deemed the most likely scenario that UCLA can jump into a top 4 seed. Unlikely, I'd put it less than 10%, but it's there. UCLA has to win all their games. Minnesota, Nebraska, USC. Wisconsin and Purdue each need to lose a game, okay? So Wisconsin and Purdue play each other. So one of them will, okay? Barring something crazy, something supernatural, they will play that game and it'll make a difference in the standings. One of them will lose. That means either Purdue or Wisconsin, the winner of that game that they play, the winner has to lose one more time, okay? Because if Wisconsin dips down, Purdue falls to UCLA's ranking, they would be tied. UCLA has the head-to-head. then you could bring down Nebraska. Nebraska is currently 13-4 as of this recording. If Nebraska loses to USC, goes to UCLA and loses, which is reasonable in an LA trip, if they lose those two, and then UCLA, Purdue, and Nebraska all have similar records, UCLA's beaten all those teams head to head, unbeaten. Boom. That would put you in the top 4 over Wisconsin, over Purdue, and over Nebraska. Okay? And it's so crazy that it's like, is that really going to happen? No. But the more rest UCLA has and the less games they have to play, I think the better. Although one could argue if UCLA plays earlier in the Big Ten tournament and can get back home and just rest, recover, and wait for wherever they're going to go to for the first round of the NCAA tournament, whether it's first 4 in Dayton or some first round location, Cronin didn't seem to care last year when they got smoked by Wisconsin. And that was a rematch of a UCLA upset a year ago. So the potential rematches UCLA wouldn't want. I wouldn't want a rematch with Illinois in the Big Ten tournament. I'm not sure UCLA would do well against Michigan in round 2 or Michigan State. And I think Purdue would have something to prove. And Purdue, I think, would be my dark horse to win the Big Ten tournament. They play a game earlier. Braden Smith might want to go win that with his seniors. And they can go out winning with a lot of momentum. Not sure if that would translate into the NCAA tournament. The more likely scenarios for UCLA, who are barely a game ahead of Iowa, who they also lost to. They are a couple of games ahead of Ohio State and just ahead of Indiana, who's on the bubble. All right. So UCLA would really have to crumble to get to Indiana's level. And if Indiana wins all their games, cool. But there's a chance where UCLA is the 7 seed, finishes closer to the 10 seed, where a stumble at Minnesota, a shocking loss to USC, or where UCLA might be an underdog at home against Nebraska, who is a top 10, top 15 team, currently second in the Big Ten standings. If UCLA drops 1 or 2 of those games, they go from out of the top 5, which would be at least a double bye if they can stick in the upper half of the standings, to having to play 3 or 4 games, and they're not even in the championship yet. And I don't think Mick Cronin would want to waste resources, waste game tape, just the wear and tear of the Big Ten tournament. He wants them kind of seeing how he's reacted and discussed it before to just get in, get out. This isn't like they're flying to Vegas to get in and out. This isn't like the Team of Destiny where you play a couple of games, you try and beat Arizona, a nationally televised game with limited travel. No, this is a trip back east, come back, and probably where UCLA will be seated, another trip back east. The rest is more important for Mick Cronin's bunch. So while UCLA could dip into the 8th or 9th seed, which would mean UCLA plays much earlier in the tournament, then UCLA's got to go 2-1. If they go 2-1, probably going to hold serve. Tiebreakers at this spot of the standings probably don't serve them well. You go 3-0, UCLA has a chance to leapfrog 1 or 2 teams to be the 5 seed, depending on if there's a 3-way tie, and also at the minimum be the 7. So if UCLA wins all 3, they're at the minimum of the 7, most likely climbing the list, which could help optically if you're trying to compare resumes between certain schools. UCLA, as it looks right now, 3-3 against teams, 2-5 against teams in the AP poll. They've got now 3 quad 1 wins, slowly building a case that maybe they're deserving of a better seed and a better location if they're trying to mix and match matchups for the first and second rounds. All right, but there's a bunch of Big Ten teams that won't help UCLA because at least 5 of them are getting a 1, 2, or 3 seed, so we'll see how that plays out. Now, after getting all that nerdy kind of back and forth out, we're talking UCLA baseball to wrap things up. This isn't a preview for the weekend against the Texas A&Ms, the Mississippi States, or the Tennessees. This is UCLA lost a shocking game to San Diego State. But does it even matter? Because the rest of the country is suffering a similar fate. Let's talk about that next on Locked On UCLA. The biggest stretch of the college basketball season is almost here. The buzzer beaters, the bracket busters, and those unforgettable moments that everybody's talking about is the next day. And being there for something live like that, that's bucket list stuff. The hard part is actually getting tickets. Long queues, prices jumping around, surprise fees at checkout. Think about it. Would you have wanted to be there for Tyler Bilodeau's game winner against Purdue and gotten a bobblehead? Or when UCLA had a packed out crowd against USC and dominated their rivals? Or maybe last Saturday's case, UCLA had a buzzer beater, dramatic comeback victory against Illinois. Well, the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans with constant innovation. You can unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps because it's incredibly simple to use. The Game Time guarantee means 100% legitimate tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included in the price you see. You see what you pay, period. There's no stress, no guesswork, just a smooth experience, and that's exactly what you want during the busiest part of the season. UCLA, Nebraska, look at those ticket prices, around $20 last time I checked, and that's a bargain deal for a top-tier team coming in the final home game for UCLA. So take the guesswork out of buying college basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Welcome to the 5-hour energy flavor draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like confetti craze, fruity rainbow, or cotton candy. There's something for everybody, but the board is set. The flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5-hour energy flavor draft. I sit there and I was debating. I always tend to do sometimes between a strawberry banana. That flavor always calls to me. And then, oh, wait, just creeping, blue raspberry. It just seemingly calls my name. It's a sweet and tangy flavor, and it's just, man, it's amazing. Smooth, easy drinking texture, and it's kind of reminiscent of those blue slushies. That calls my name every single time, and that's why you want to go and get, for me, a blue raspberry for the 5-hour energy. It's a shot that gives you a boost with zero sugar, so find your new favorite flavor of 5-hour energy flavor shots, available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Cruising on here with Locked On UCLA, final segment, UCLA Baseball, the talk of the town, number one in the country, preseason number one, suffered their second shocking loss at the hands of what you might deem a mid-major, right? And UCLA losing to two teams from San Diego. Opening weekend, they won 2 out of 3 against UC San Diego. They then beat Tulane, swept TCU, so a great start to last week where they went all the way through everything despite the rain and the craziness. Only to face San Diego State to wrap up this home stretch to start the year, which included, 7 games? 8 games? San Diego State went to UCLA and beat the Bruins 4-3. So what was supposed to be a banner day, you beat up on USC in the men's basketball front. Women's basketball continues to celebrate their first ever conference outright championship by winning the Big Ten outright. Number one Bruins lost to San Diego State 4-3. All right, it was another game where UCLA tried to rally late. They actually led first in the first 6 to 8 games for UCLA. I'm pretty sure 6 of those 8 UCLA has been trailing to begin the game. They have made a habit from their starting pitching to be down early. Now, midweeks are a different story, but they're down early. San Diego State then scored 1 run in each of the 3rd through 6th innings. UCLA got within a run in the 6th, and at the end of the game, the Aztecs held the Bruins at bay. UCLA, which, you could argue that their pitching was a problem midweek-wise. You're like, okay, 4 runs to San Diego State, a team who got blasted, I think, by Utah, that got blasted in another game against San Diego. San Diego State's losses included 7-0 to Utah at home, 15-4 at the end of a long weekend to their local WCC rival San Diego, 15-4, and to turn around and have enough pitching to shut down UCLA. The Bruins had 3 hits in this game. 3. And yet they lost 4-3. So despite minimal offense, it's not often you can get 3 hits and still produce 3 runs and have a chance in a 1-run game. It's like, is that an embarrassing loss? Is that one to overreact to? Well, I was diving into Baseball America, right? There's really a couple of outlets that cover college baseball with extreme coverage. And one of those is D1 Baseball, which has been one of the premier coverages. And then the other one's been Baseball America, who's been doing it for a long time. And I came across an article I thought well written by Baseball America. I think it's Jacob Rudner, however you pronounce his name, because there was a crazy amount of upsets in the midweeks, all right? UCLA lost, and then number 2, LSU lost to McNeese. Yes, McNeese. Number 4, Georgia Tech lost to Georgia Southern. So all these teams are losing to very local teams in midweeks, some of which have enough pitching and enough pizzazz, right? You think about San Diego State, you think about McNeese, you think about Georgia Southern, who beat Georgia Tech. There's been more upsets in between those. These are games that these other teams are going up for. And in other sports, other conferences, baseball is their premier sport, like the Big West, like how the Mountain West had the WAC or former WAC member Fresno State going to run. Crazier things can happen in the midweeks because these schools probably have a little bit better chance in baseball when talent's spread out, pitching's thin, something happens early, better practice, they execute. Things can happen early in the season. So reading through this Baseball America article, there's a lot of insane midweek results this week alone. So do not over-exaggerate, do not just freak out because they lost to San Diego State. This is what they're comparing in this Baseball America article. Last year, Coastal Carolina, who had one of the best winning streaks in the country, one-time national champion, were the runners-up last year against the LSU Tigers. They went 7-5 in midweeks, okay? They were the 13 overall seed. Their seeding was ranked higher than an SEC team, Tennessee, who was the reigning champ at the time, went 13-1 in midweeks, okay? So you had SEC potential bias. You had a team who dominated midweeks versus Coastal Carolina, who went 7-5 in midweeks. And if you want to nitpick, generally they'll side with one over the other. Well, Coastal Carolina had the hottest winning streak in all of college baseball last year heading into the postseason. So despite the Chanticleers having an okay record in midweeks, they got a higher seed than an SEC team who were at the time a program the defending champs. Overall seeds that were top 16 seeds 2 years ago, NC State, UCSB, Oklahoma, Arizona, they were either under 500 or just above 500, 6-4, 6-5, 3-6 in NC State's case. So you're like, okay, some teams lose 4 or 5 midweek games. And the source that was talked to in this article that was anonymous, this is what the quote was told based on a selection committee member anonymously talking to Baseball America, quoted by this article from Jacob Rudner. How a team performs in a one-off game where travel can be involved, there's better arms that aren't on the mound, teams are trying to get reps. It doesn't matter as much. My laptop's kind of freaking out at the moment. It's hard to put a lot of value on it. From a pure wins and losses standpoint, midweeks matter. They matter in the aggregate, in other words. But in a vacuum, it's hard to get hung up on them, which means, oh, we're not going to punish you for a super ugly loss in a midweek? And with UCLA playing 3 individual games this weekend, it's good. Most of these teams will have arms available like for a weekend set, except in individual games against Tennessee. You mix in A&M with a big crowd, and at the end of the weekend, the premier game against Mississippi State. Yes, those will be huge, but they tend to view these one-offs not as highly as they do a series, because that's where you test your depth. That's how baseball is won. You got to get through the supers, you got to get through the championship series, and despite the chaos of the regionals, which is why these teams play these one-off games to prepare for, you still got to get a series to win a championship. Unlike how it was the one championship game, it's the series, best 2 out of 3 to finish off in Omaha. To even get there, you got to get through a super. And UCLA did just that last year. So even though it's an early start, the one thing I'm wondering is, one, do they have enough pitching to get through 4 games a week? The TCU Tulane week, yes. But to follow up the TCU sweep, they didn't have enough pitching to survive San Diego State. But namely, 3 hits in that game and a 4-3 loss against San Diego State, it's really the bats that are supposed to carry this team that really didn't. So we'll see how it looks like when they face premier competition. More preview, more notes, more nonsense in the next Locked On UCLA vid and top podcast. But like, comment, subscribe, download, become a part of the Everydayer Club. Everydayer Club, lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer, and you'll find the UCLA channel, ad-free audio, be a part of the family. In the meantime, hands up, Bruins fans, 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, UCLA. UCLA fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.